I'm Beau Nelson. Welcome to Beauty School. I'm a makeup artist with over 27 years of experience, and I'd love to share some of my tips and tricks with you. So, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Welcome back to Beauty School. We're going right in with Boom Boom Milk from Violette FR on Taylor's face. Taylor's one of my favorite models. This product is a liquid moisturizer. It can be used before or after makeup, but before it sort of preps the skin to receive moisture. I'm going in with the 24 karat gold firming moisturizer from Chantecaille and doing a firm but gentle face massage. I feel like the longer you spend prepping the skin, the better. You have to use less foundation, it has a natural glow, and because this is a wedding makeup, we really want this to last. Choosing the appropriate moisturizer for your client is super important. If you're doing a wedding makeup and the client has oily skin, then I suggest using an oil-free moisturizer or something with oil control. Sometimes I use an oil control moisturizer in the T-zone and a heavier moisturizer on the outer perimeter of the face because I love to have that glowy natural look. This Suku foundation is an industry best kept secret. It is from Japan. I know it's available in the UK, but I don't think it's available anywhere in the USA yet. I'm using this with the Ultra Flesh blender from Leia. This product actually does not absorb any foundation, so I'm dotting it on the face, and then I'm going to use a bouncing motion to spread the foundation and press it into the skin. You use a lot less foundation with a product like this, and I love it because it creates the perfect amount of coverage. These are the legendary Clé de Peau concealer sticks. I'm using two shades today, one in ivory for under the eye and one in ochre for on the face. I'm going to use ochre on the face here and blend it in with the Leia Ultra Flesh blender just anywhere I see a little bit of redness or I need a little bit of extra coverage. I'm going to be doing a lip stain a little bit later, so I want to make sure that the lips are prepped. I'm using the Kiehl's lip mask for that. This is a great product for hydrating the lips and making sure that they're smooth and plump and ready to receive whatever lip product you're going to put on them. This is the NARS Radiant Creamy Color Corrector. This is just going to neutralize any shadows under the eyes and help that sort of under eye area pop a little bit more. I'm going to go over it with concealer as well, just for a little bit of extra coverage. Remember, concealer and corrector are two different things. Corrector is meant to correct the under eye circle's color, and concealer is meant to cover it. Because this is a wedding makeup, we want to make sure that the eyeshadow stays in place, so I'm using the NARS eyeshadow primer. This is a great primer for eyeshadow. It helps it go on smoothly, it makes it last a lot longer, it locks it in, and keeps the color quite true. This Wayne Goss eyeshadow palette in Pearl is a beautiful neutral palette. I'm using a matte shade just all over the eyelid and into the crease to give it some shape, and then I'm going to go back in with some of the pearlized shades and give it a little bit of sparkle. I want to warm up the skin gently, so I'm using the Makeup by Mario bronzing stick, and I'm just going to use this on a fluffy brush and apply it just where the sun hits, so on the forehead, a little bit on the cheek, and down onto the jawline, and ending with a little bit across the nose. Make sure to warm up the neck a little bit as well. That will help blend the foundation into the neckline and make sure that there's no lines of demarcation. I'm using the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Blush Stick in Raspberry. This works really well with their cream bronzer formula. This is a bright pink, and I love to use bright colors but just sheer them out. It makes the skin look really beautiful and alive. This Charlotte Tilbury Nudegasm palette has two really great contouring shades. I'm using the lighter one on Taylor today and sometimes mixing it with the deeper one. This is a vacuum form slurry product, I believe, and it is really a good formulation. It is satin finish, it's demi-transparent, so it's really easy to build up. I really, really love this product, and I wish that they would have more shades, even singular contour shades. So Charlotte, if you're listening, I love a stain for a wedding day. Even if you're going to put lipstick on top of it, it is a great base layer to have. This one is in Petal Pink by Charlotte Tilbury, and I'm applying it to the lips and just feathering it outwards. This is a very buildable stain. You can do it in layers. This is where you could stop the look if you wanted to. We're going to go ahead and do some eyebrows and a little bit more eyeshadow. But this by itself would be a beautiful, supernatural wedding look, and it would be great if you were getting married outside or you're just not that much of a makeup girl. using this super thin brow pencil from W&Co. This is a great eye pencil. It is very fine tipped. It is a little bit of a triangle tip, which I love, and it has a spoolie on the other end, which is always appreciated. I want to make Taylor's eyebrows a little bit fuller, so I'm extending them at the arch, and I'm also going a little bit above the eyebrow and a little bit below. This is going to allow me to comb the eyebrow hairs into place when I use the brow gel, and they're going to look very natural. I'm using tiny little strokes and making sure that this is going to be very well blended. I might use a little bit of brow powder afterwards, it just really depends. And I'm just working this brow as I go, just to see how it's going to look. The Anastasia Brow Freeze gel is a constant in my kit. It is a very strong brow gel, and I use it on a spoolie just to brush the eyebrows up. I'm often making brows look a little bit fuller. This really helps disguise where I put any pencil or powder. Going back in with this tiny little soft brush. A softer brush is going to give you a softer brow, and I'm using a little bit of the Anastasia brow powder on this brush. I love to do this especially towards the inner corner of the eye because it just gives a softness, and you can really see the difference between Taylor's brows. They still look completely natural, but you can see they're almost twice as full. For me, this is sort of my signature brow. Super natural, full, fluffy. I love this look. I'm going to be using the Gossamer lashes from Lashify in A10 and A12. These sizes are very similar to Taylor's natural lashes. They're just going to be there for fullness. These are great for weddings because they are not mascara. There's no chance that they're going to go anywhere, especially if you bond them properly. These lashes look so natural when they're applied that people would never be able to tell that you were actually wearing lashes, especially in the more natural styles. They are applied underneath the lash line, and they just really take up no space on the eyelid. They open up the eye. They are one of my favorite products. They are always in my kit. I am using a very little amount of the double-ended whisper light. This is in black, and I'm just combing it through the lashes. You want to do this in light layers to build a cushion for the lashes to stick to. Once you get this right, the lashes will easily attach to the lash, and they're very easy to use. It does take a little bit of practice, but once you have it, it's a totally incredible tool. Going back in with another layer of the clear whisper light, I'm just doing this at the base of the lashes. This is the final step in creating the perfect amount of cushion for lashes to stay on all day. These lashes can actually last for up to a week, just depends on how you take care of them and how you bond them. Because I've layered the bonds, we're ready to go and just apply underneath the lashes. I'm using the Fuse Control Wand to put them underneath the lashes, side by side, slightly overlapped. And you just want to line up the spines. You can see that from underneath the eye. These I'm putting very close to the lash, but if you wanted them to last longer, you would place them about 1 millimeter above the lash line. You won't be able to tell, but for me, I like to place them super close to the lash because most of my work is red carpet. Now I've applied the other side of the Lashify off camera. I'm going back into the eyeshadow palette from Wayne Goss and using that on a Sigma brush just underneath the lash line, just to give a little bit of shape to the eye. Going back with the darker shade just across the lid, blending it into the shade that I used before, which is a little bit lighter in the crease. And this is just giving more definition to the eye and a little bit of base for the sparkle that we're going to be using on top. I'm using my favorite Real Techniques brush just to blend underneath the eye and sort of blend the under eye shadow into the concealer. I'm really all about blending. You'll see that I'm always going over things with brushes, blending things together, using different techniques, but I really want the skin to look cohesive always and the eyeshadow to be blended into the skin. Now I'm using the Sparkle shade from the Wayne Goss palette, and I'm using this on my finger. Sparkle shades tend to have a little bit more fallout, and this is an easy way to make sure that I'm just placing it exactly where I want it and not all over the face. This Ilia multi-stick palette has blushes and highlighters. I'm using the highlighter today. I'm going to place it onto the cheekbone, and then I'm going to use the blender from Leia to press it into the skin and just melt it into the foundation. You'll see the Charlotte Tilbury pressed powder show up a lot. I like to use it in the center of the face and leave the rest of the face more dewy and glowy, but if you prefer a matte finish, this is great to use all over the place, or if you're particularly oily, you might want to do a couple layers of this. It's great for setting underneath the eye, going around the nose, the chin, and I just think that this is the best powder on the market for pressed powders. It has rose oil in it. It doesn't look like powder. It mattifies without looking like cakiness or powdery. It just leaves behind a satin skin finish, which I really like. I'm using this matte lipstick from Zara. This shade is a bright fuchsia shade, although I'm not actually 100% sure it's called fuchsia. I couldn't find it online, so I think it might be discontinued. I am using it with an eyeshadow brush, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want this to be a very diffused, not super defined lip. I want it to look more like a stain, even though we have the stain underneath it. This is going to give that lip some lasting power, but I wanted to pop a little bit of brightness on just to kind of give it a little bit of life. I think this is a really pretty look. Again, you could have stopped before this lip, but I think this is just really beautiful and springy and just so pretty. I want to balance out the lashes, so I'm using the Carbon Black Luminous from L'Oreal on the bottom lashes. Now, if I were doing this for an actual wedding where there might be a chance of somebody crying, I would 100% use the waterproof. And if you don't want to use lashes, then using the waterproof on the top lashes is great because it will actually hold the curl a little bit better. Or if you have straight lashes, a waterproof mascara is going to help hold the curl as well. As a final step, I'm using the One Size On Till Dawn setting spray. This setting spray keeps your makeup on all night long, all day long. It is an amazing spray. I know that Beyonce's makeup artist uses it for her on stage. And now we have the final look. So if you like this kind of content, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And we'll see you next time on Beauty School.